Well, good Monday afternoon, Living Water Church. We went through the burial of Jesus Christ yesterday in church, and we got to unwrap some of what Mark teaches us about that, and then a little bit more in-depth history into what the burial of Jesus Christ would have looked like. And I hope you guys know that I just really nicked the surface of all the in-depth intricacies of what Christ's burial really entailed, kind of the scope of what we can learn from history and from the Word, and then on top of that, just some of the great and extreme accuracy of the prophecies that were fulfilled in the death and burial of Jesus Christ. Now, on top of that, guys, we talked briefly yesterday about truth and really the need for a Christian to hold truth as a primary pinnacle in their walk with the Lord, that we don't shy away from searching and seeking out truth. And in fact, what 2 Corinthians tells us is we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God while taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. We have to make sure that is our primary focus in our discipleship for the Lord, is that we hold on to truth as an object, and that object of truth is the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the author and the perfecter of our faith, the creator of the Word, and the arbiter of all truth. Now, in that process, guys, we can't say this doesn't matter, or it's not a big deal, or it doesn't really affect that person. It doesn't really affect the gospel, guys. Our job is to hunt down truth in all aspects, at all times, in all regards. And it is not that we make truth an idol, but what we do is we follow Jesus Christ in all things. And then we have to be prepared at all times to give a defense to anyone who asks for a reason for the hope that is within us. And we can't do that unless we understand what that hope is. We can't do that unless we understand how to combat what the world is saying against Christianity, against the following of Jesus, against his death, burial, and resurrection, against the fact that there are indeed many gods that are worshipped, but there is only one God that is truly the God of the heavens and the universe. And how do we combat that? How do we bring a apologetic approach to those people if we've never looked into it ourselves? And we can read in 1 John chapter 4, and it says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is in the world already." So when we read that in 1 John chapter 4, what we see is really a very bold statement by John. He's not pulling any punches or saying, well, it's not a big deal if they don't believe that. At least they know God, or at least they're serving God. He says, if you don't confess Jesus Christ, not only him, but if you don't confess that he has come in the flesh, that he is the God-man, if you don't confess of what he came to do here on this earth, then you don't confess God. Then you are indeed an antichrist. And now we can think of an antichrist as an individual, because this is what's been taught in the church time and time again, that it's a singular individual. But read through the book of John, 1 John, and you're going to see that the antichrist is just any who are opposed to God. In fact, if you just back up into chapter 2, you're going to see this that John is talking about. He says, "Children, it's the last hour. And as you have heard," this is in verse 18 of chapter 2, "as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Therefore we know that this is the last hour. They went out from us because they were not one of us. For if they had been one of us, they would have continued with us. But they went out, that it might become plain to us that they are not of us. But you have been anointed by the Holy One, and you have knowledge. I write to you not because you do not know the truth, but because you do know it, and because no lie is of the truth. Who is the liar but the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. No one denies the Son and has the Father, and whoever confesses the Son has the Father. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. If what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and the Father, and this is the promise he made to us through that eternal life." So, when we read that, we see very, very plainly that John doesn't care at all if you want to shy away and find your own truth. He doesn't care about calling you out on it. He doesn't care that you're going to say, well, it's not a big deal, or it's not that big of a deal, or you know what, it's just part of the message that they have wrong. What John says very clearly is if you do not confess Jesus Christ as God, if you do not confess Jesus Christ as come, if you do not confess Jesus Christ as the God-man, the God that stepped down from heaven to be a man and walk a man's life here, fully God and fully man, if you don't confess that, then you don't have the Father, and you don't have the Son, and you don't have eternal life. This is just very, very straightforward and very to the point. He's not going to say, well, you can confess God, but you can mess around with Jesus Christ. He says, no. You're either all in the truth or you're all out. You can't take a part of the truth and call it truth. Either you have truth or you don't have truth. So guys, our mission here is not to be a Christian that maybe one day turns into a disciple. In fact, the word disciple in the Bible is listed 269 times in the Bible. It talks about being a disciple or disciples or a disciple. Now, in the Bible, really the root word of Christian is only listed 3 times. So it's not that you are a Christian trying to become a disciple. It's that if you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you are a disciple. And therefore you should model your life after being a disciple. And so many Christians come into the world and think they're not a disciple, or they shouldn't be a disciple, or they don't need to be a disciple, but God calls you to be a disciple. That's what he calls you to do. And if you're not willing to surrender to life to be a disciple, then I would question the fact of whether or not you're actually surrendered to Jesus Christ in what he's called you to do. Guys, we confessed God has come in the flesh. He is the man God. He is Jesus Christ in the flesh. And he came and lived a perfect life, and he died for you and for me on a cross. He was buried, and he rose again 3 days later. And now he is seated at the right hand of the Father, interceding on our behalf. That's the truth. There's no other truth. He is our one and only mediator. It's exactly what the Bible teaches. And anyone who speaks out against that, John says very clearly what they are. They are an antichrist. They are not of us. They are against us. They are not of the truth. Guys, we see that, and I'm not going to call out specific religions, but we see that throughout many other religions that profess to be Christians, but they are indeed not disciples of Christ, or they do not confess Christ as God, or they do not confess Christ as the Messiah. Any of those religions we can very quickly learn and distinguish from God, from John's writing, that they are not of God. They neither have the Father nor do they have the Son if they do not have the package of both. And then John goes on in his letter to write about the connection of the Spirit as well. He's bringing in the triune Godhead into his discussion about truth. And it's a great book to read. If you haven't read 1 John, I would highly encourage you. It's a very short book. Go out and read it and see some of the areas that John really focused on what truth is. So, guys, I have some announcements for you, but the first thing I want to do ties right into what I was just talking to you about, and that's that we struggle here at this church, as well as just the church as a whole, the Kingdom Church. We struggle to go and proclaim the message of truth to the world because we don't have the message of truth in our own hearts. And what the problem with that is if we've never actually taken time to study what that truth is, that verse I shared with you, we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. Well, I would ask you right at this very moment, how many of you could say with certainty that you could go out into the world and you could destroy arguments raised against the knowledge of God? And you might never become perfect at this, but if you're not attempting to make that a reality in your life, I would ask why. This is what God commands us to do. We are called to become disciples of Jesus Christ, to know him, to know the truth of what he taught, to know what the Bible holds for us and how we should model our lives after Christ. And what we need to do is find an apologetic and a natural approach to becoming a disciple of Jesus in order to share our faith properly with other people. So guys, what I'm going to do to try to help and mold and model this church to be able to do that properly and give you a boldness to be able to go out and share your faith is this. We read that other verse that we memorized, guys, and these are the 2 memory verses we had long ago, which says that we should always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks for a reason for the hope that is within us. The hope that is within me. It says, do it with gentleness and respect. So how do we push forward giving a gentle and respectful apologetic approach? And apologetics doesn't mean an apology. It means a way to share our faith in a manner of gentleness and respect, that you would actually cause others to want what you have because you have the ability to speak out against arguments against God, and do it with boldness, but also do it with gentleness and love. And then the verse in 2 Corinthians says that we take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. In other words, we follow and surrender to Jesus Christ in all areas, in all aspects of our life, regardless if it feels good, regardless if we like it, regardless if it's something that we want to follow. We take captive every thought to the obedience of Christ in order to proclaim his message of truth. So, we're going to do that here at the church starting once a month. Janice and I, my wife and I, are going to teach an apologetics class here on Friday nights once a month. And our first one is going to be coming up in 2 weeks on the 29th. And we're going to start that here at 6:30 p.m. here at the church. And we're going to have about an hour to an hour and a half of an apologetics study. And this is going to be an interactive study, not just a teaching. So you can come with any of your questions. How many of you have went out in public and you've been trying to witness to somebody and they'll say a statement like this: well, I believe in God, but I also believe that there are many gods. Okay, what's your initial immediate response back to that? Or they'll go out and say, you'll go out and talk to somebody about Jesus Christ and they'll say, well, I'm not so sure that Jesus even lived. Really, maybe it's just a good story, or maybe it's just, he was a good teacher. What's your immediate response back to that? Does that just shut the conversation down right away? Or do you have a response that is something that you've actually studied and you've learned that you can go and give an apologetic approach to that discussion? So I would ask, if you have any desire, and I hope there is a desire in each and every one of you to share your faith, then come out to that apologetics class. It's going to be Friday the 29th, and then after that, it's going to be the last Friday of every single month. And then we're going to meet here at 6:30 at the church. You can bring your questions, and we're going to answer whatever questions you have. And if there's a question that needs a longer discussion, we'll prep it, and we will tackle it the next month. But if you are interested in sharing your faith and you want to do it and have an ability to do it with boldness, and you want to have an ability to do it with gentleness and respect, and actually bring the truth of the gospel to other people and not be stumped at every turn, or not feel like you don't have all the answers, or be able to have confidence in that sharing, then come out to that class on the 29th at 6:30. Guys, what we have coming up after, right before that actually, is the CareNet fundraising banquet here at the church, also at 6:30 on the 21st. And we need an RSVP for this. Right now, I just checked. We only have 3 RSVPs, but I've talked to a bunch of people yesterday at church, and they said they were going to come. So I need you guys to hop on our website. The link's right in the description below. Click the link. It'll only take you 2 seconds, and RSVP to that event. It's going to be here, 6:30 p.m. at the church. We're going to have some appetizers, then we're going to eat a meal, then we're going to hear from a keynote speaker that's tuning in virtually, and we are going to just have a time of fellowship after that as well. So 6:30, the 21st, here at the church, and you need to RSVP by the 17th. So please, guys, hop on right now, right below this link, and RSVP to that event. You're going to put how many adults are coming and how many children are coming. We are going to have childcare upstairs for this event, so please RSVP for both who is coming and coming with you, including children. So, and then, guys, we have a bunch of other upcoming events over the next couple months, but I'm not going to hit them here. But keep an eye out on our calendar for things that are coming up in the future. And then what we have that's not an event, but something that's rapidly coming to a close, is the Annie Armstrong Easter offering. So if you have not already given to that, I would ask, we're going to make our final collection for that the Sunday after Easter as we start our new series. So guys, please be asking the Lord what He would have you give to that offering. There are envelopes right here at the church, or you can give online and make a memo note for Annie Armstrong. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any thing that you guys need, my number's in the description below. There is no RSVP needed for the apologetics meeting, but just come out on Friday the 29th, 6:30 p.m., and we'll meet here at the church right down in the sanctuary. And I pray you guys have a blessed week, and I'm just so looking forward to ministering with you, to worshiping with you, to fellowshipping with you on this upcoming Easter. If you haven't already done so, invite someone to church. I mean, Easter is the absolute best time. Easter and Christmas are the 2 times where it's the easiest. Guys, go out, invite a coworker, invite a family member, invite a friend, just get them to come to the church and come in the doors and hear and worship and minister with you, and hear a message of great power, the message of the resurrection. Guys, that's where we focus, and that's what the rest of the Bible is really pointing to, is this moment of great power that God unveils in His death, burial, and resurrection. So there's no better time to invite your family or friends out to church. So I pray that you would do that and have a boldness about it, to do that for this upcoming week. So I'll see you Sunday. Have a blessed week.